So I want to invite you all to go on a journey with me this morning. A journey through some of the things that I have recently been finding to be very interesting and fascinating and exciting. And actually, I think these things have everything to do with why we do what we do here in worship on Sunday mornings. I think these things have everything to do with our series called The Passionate Jesus. But here's the thing, on this journey, there may be some of you at certain points who say, man, this just totally resonates. This is what I've been feeling and sensing. And there may be others of you at different points who say, yeah, I'm not feeling it. Not there. It's not where I am. Let me just say all of it's cool. All those things are perfectly natural and good. And here's the thing about journeys. We don't all start at the same place. We don't arrive at the same place. We don't stop and rest at the same place. But that's what a journey is. We do it together. So let's just jump right in. Diana Butler Bass is a church historian and a scholar of religion. And she has a new book out called Grounded. And the central argument in this book is that the old vertically structured universe, the three-tiered universe, where God is up here and we, creation, here, and bad, dark, ominous things down here, that old universe is disappearing. We're not making sense of God in the world that way anymore. And there's a new reality that's emerging, and this new reality is much more horizontally structured. And we'll get into exactly what that means. But she says, think about it. For the last few hundred years, this is what Western Christianity has given to us. This is what's been handed down to us. You can see it everywhere. Consider even the architectural structures of many church buildings. What is this a picture of? Steeple. She calls these things religious rocket ships. Because these religious rocket ships literally come to a point, and they point to the God who is up there somewhere. And you see, when we do this, we create a God who's distant, a God who's not really down here with us, not really with us in the mess and the beauty, but a God who's distant. And it's not just in church architectural buildings that we see this. We can see this all over, still the residue of it, because it's on its way out. It's not totally gone yet. Think of church music. Many hymns. Some beloved hymns. And don't just stop at the hymns. Keep going into the contemporary Christian praise and worship music. So much of the language is about a God who's up there somewhere, and we're crying for this God to come be with us, and for God to draw us near, and for us to draw near to God, and we beg for this God to pour down from above His grace. And do you ever get the sense that maybe God is saying, wait a minute, you're missing it. I'm right here with you. I'm in the breath you just took. How can I get any closer? All the grace and love I have, it's all been given to you. The shift is a horizontal shift, and it's the shift that says God is with us. Now, there's another metaphor that she uses that I find really helpful and funny, and part of what makes it funny is because it's so true. Holy elevators, she talks about. And these holy elevators, so you can think of this as God as being up there somewhere, and God is sending things down through the holy elevators. Things like rules and rule books and doctrines and sacraments. And if you have holy elevators, you have to have holy elevator operators, i.e. pastors, priests, and ministers. And these pastor, priests, and ministers, we can interpret for you exactly what's coming out of the elevators, and we can interpret for you exactly how you can do it. And here's the thing, if you do it right, then after your time is up and you get into the elevator, there's a good chance God is going to hit the up button for you. Now, it's not just that God is sending down things like rules and rule books and doctrines and sacraments. But this God also, through holy elevators, sends things like tragedies, holocausts and mass shootings, death and destruction, things to get our attention, to get us back on some sort of good path. And this God doesn't just send down tragedies, we have to be fair. This God also sends down blessings, rewarding those who are on the right path, giving a big attaboy, rewarding those who deserve it. And see, the thing is, this way of looking at God and the universe, it is disappearing. It is being completely rejected, and something new is emerging. So many of you have heard me talk about the recent Pew Research, the report that they released, that they published. It came out in May, and this was huge. For religion in America, this was huge. This helped us understand the religious landscape of America. And you heard me talk about back in September some of the statistics, and I want to revisit some of the numbers that they gave us, but also go a little deeper into it. Because this report, by the way, over 200 pages. So not many have read the entire report. But here's what they told us, the Pew Research report. And this may not be anything too new for us, but that we're living in this post-Christian world, and that church and Christianity in America were on this major trend of decline. And here's what they tell us through surveying 35,000 people throughout 7 years. So the research started in 2007, concluded in 2014, and was released in May of 15. They tell us that the percentage of adults who describe themselves as Christian has dropped by nearly 8 percentage points in 7 years, from 78% to 70%. That's a significant decline. They also tell us that the decline is happening in every denomination, in every Christian sect, and mainline Protestants are no exception here. So in 2007, there was 41 million mainline Protestants. In 2014, when the research concluded, 36 million mainline Protestants. Again, that's a significant decline. And they tell us that the number of religiously unaffiliated adults is the fastest growing group in America, and they've increased by 19 million over the last 7 years. So there's approximately 56 million religiously unaffiliated adults in the U.S., and they're commonly referred to as the nones, N-O-N-E-S. They don't have an affiliation. And by the way, one of the other fastest growing groups in America, they're called the Dones, D-O-N-E-S. They're the group that was once active in the church, but is no longer active. So, if you saw all the newspapers, all the articles that came out in May, you saw headlines like this. From the Huffington Post, America is getting less Christian and less religious, study shows. Yeah, kind of, maybe, sort of. Here's the statistics and the numbers that we didn't see. Remember, the report is huge, 201 pages to be exact. Get this. 49% of Americans report to have had some sort of spiritual or mystical experience that has transformed their life. Stunning, isn't it? That's almost 1 out of 2 of us walking around say that we've had some sort of experience with the spiritual or the mystical that has changed us. The same question was asked in 1962 by Gallup. How many percent, what percentage do you think answered yes to this question? 22% said yes. That means in our lifetime, this number, the people who are saying they've had this profound experience, it's more than doubled. A couple other questions they asked in the Pew report. Have you in the last week experienced a sense of deep peace and well-being? 65% of the people said yes to this question. Have you in the last week experienced a sense of awe and wonder in the universe or creation? 52% of the people said yes to this question. And this one is most stunning. I find this one most surprising and most interesting. 75% of the people who were surveyed said that they are looking for a sense of purpose and meaning, and they see that as having something to do with their spiritual life. Yes, so what? Religion is declining. The vertically structured, three-tiered universe, that way of looking at God and understanding God in the world, it is disappearing. But the idea of people experiencing God, this isn't going anywhere. Actually, it's only going up, right? And see, I think this actually has something to say about what we do here on Sunday mornings, what we do here in our worship. It has everything to say to it. Because I think we have this beautiful opportunity to proclaim the God who is with us. Not the God who hovers above us and who's just waiting to bless some and destroy others, but the God who is with us. We have this unique opportunity when it comes to the 75%, this unique opportunity to affirm it, to say yes to it, to give permission to it. Oh, you saw the sunset last night. You saw the sun setting behind the mountains, and there were some clouds involved, and these beautiful array of colors started appearing. And something inside of you started to change. Something started to open up. You had this sense of awe and wonder. Of course you did. Of course you did. God is moving in our midst all around us, and you were in that moment becoming awake and aware to what God was doing. And all of a sudden it became bigger than you. Oh, you went to the park yesterday. Because let's face it, it was 65 degrees and sunny and it's January. Not so today or tomorrow. You went to the park yesterday. And you watched your two little girls play on the playground together. You watched them laugh together and play and grow and develop. And in that moment, something came over you. Something overwhelmed you, this feeling of gratitude. This feeling of, wow, I get to be in relationship with these two little human beings. Of course you felt that way. This is God moving in our midst. This is the God of relationship who is always calling us to something more, calling us to be awake and aware and alive to the things that are happening around us, to the connections that are happening. Or you mean like last year when you were experiencing that profound sense of suffering, profound sense of loss, and people in this community said they were praying for you. And you don't have the words, you may not have the language, you can't explain it, but you know that every bone in your body could feel their prayers. Of course you could. Of course you could. This is the divine energy moving all around us, and they're tapping into this energy, and because they're tapping into this God energy, you're feeling it because we're interconnected and you too are in a sense tapping into it. You see all the research, all the numbers, all the statistics that come out, they're saying something pretty poignantly to us. They're saying to us that worship can't be just about us. The nuns and the duns, it's not that they're angry and they've been burned or wounded by church. Some of them, of course, have. But what they're saying is, look, the church experience has been shallow. It's been irrelevant. It's been exclusive. Just don't need it. And if we church leaders are honest, we have to look them in the eyes and probably do some repenting. Because when it came to their deepest questions and their deepest doubts, we by and large dismissed them because we didn't know what to do with them. We saw them as threatening. See, worship can't be just about us, right? I mean, it can't be just about coming into the doors of a sanctuary and hearing some beautiful music and say, oh, this just makes me feel so good inside, or, oh, the pastor's sermon, it just made me feel so good inside. And let me be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. This in itself is a good thing, right? I mean, I hope when you come in here, you feel good leaving. You feel like you encountered something bigger. You feel like you had a sense of worth and that you were valuable and God's love is all around. But it can't stop there. It can't just stop there. Like if what we're doing here on Sunday mornings isn't inspiring us to live better stories in the world, to make a difference in the world, then what are we doing? If Sunday morning worship isn't inspiring us to live our mission, which we say is the teachings of Jesus, love, acceptance, justice, and hope, if it's not inspiring us to those things, then seriously, what in the heck are we doing? You see, we have to constantly have an eye towards the community, towards the world, and I actually think this is incredibly consistent with the life and teachings of Jesus. And nothing affirms more the idea that God is with us than the life of Jesus. And so I want to close with a story this morning. It's a story that comes from Luke's Gospel. Luke chapter 8, the first 3 verses go like this. Soon afterward, Jesus traveled through the cities and villages, preaching and proclaiming the good news of God's kingdom. The 12 were there with him, along with some women who had been healed of evil spirits and sicknesses. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had been thrown out, Joanna, the wife of Herod's servant Chuza, Susanna, and many others who provided for them out of their resources. I know, right? You're thinking, what in the heck does this have to do with anything that we just talked about? And let me respond, it has, I think, everything to do with what we've just been talking about. So check it out. Jesus is traveling around from different cities, different villages, and it starts with the 12 disciples, the 12. But then the movement begins to grow, and all of a sudden, there's this group of women who have joined the group. And these women, they have the most interesting stories. And the way we can understand these women, they're the ones who were bankrolling the mission of Jesus. They're the ones who, at the end of the day, when they sat down at the table, they're the ones who were always raising their hands saying, I've got it. I got the check. Don't worry about it. I got this one. I've got it. And these women had some fascinating stories. And it's like in these 3 verses, Luke is dropping a huge bomb on us. Luke is saying, pay attention. Luke wants us to see what Jesus was about. Luke wants us to see what Jesus was doing. Luke wants us to see what kinds of people were attracted to this mission, who the mission and message was for. People like Mary Magdalene, who I have no clue what was going on in her life, but it was some heavy stuff. She was just looking for some healing, because obviously at one point she was carrying around with her 7 demons. How do we know this? Because someone took time to count these demons. The mission was for people like Joanna. Who's Joanna? Oh, Joanna, the wife of Chuza. Wait a minute, who's Chuza? Oh, Chuza. Chuza's managing Herod's household and everything in it. Interesting stuff right here. So a little background. Herod the Great was a very powerful ruler in the area, and he died around the age 4. I'm sorry, not the age 4, the year 4. That'd be something to be a powerful ruler at the age of 4. He died around the year 4. This is the same Herod who, when Jesus was born, this Herod said, let's kill all the babies, hoping that Jesus would be one of them. Didn't happen, obviously. When he died, when Herod died, Rome decided to divide the kingdom among his sons. So Philip got the east, Herod Antipas got Galilee, and Archelaus got Judea, which included Jerusalem. He didn't last very long because he wasn't a good ruler, and someone came to replace him, a Roman governor. You may remember him, Pilate. Yes, that Pilate, the one who executed Jesus. Jesus and his crew are traveling around Galilee. Herod Antipas is now the ruler in Galilee. Herod Antipas is very, very wealthy. He goes around building for himself new palaces. He lives a life of luxury. In fact, if you were in the Holy Land last year, we saw one of these palaces where he literally moved a mountain to build a new palace. Chusa is managing the household and everything in it. That means Chusa is responsible for an enormous amount of wealth. Chusa is the finance director. Chusa is sharing his money with his wife, Joanna, who happens to be traveling around with an itinerant Jewish rabbi and a woman who used to have 7 demons and other people with spirits and sicknesses. Joanna is among the elite. Joanna probably had everything she could ever wish for. She probably had it all. She probably lived a life of luxury, big banquets, big festivals, big tables with all sorts of food. But for whatever reason, Joanna no longer finds this life very interesting. She's now shacked up in a small motel room in Galilee with a woman who used to be carrying around 7 demons. She now finds herself at a dinner table in the evening, not with the elite, but with poor fishermen who were probably in their late teens or early 20s. Joanna finds herself traveling around with this Jewish rabbi during the day, taking her and the others to the most interesting, rejected people who live on the margins, people who were told they weren't good enough, people who were told they weren't worthy of God's love. You see, the story was never meant to stop with just the 12. And there's this really cool verse in Luke chapter 13, just a couple of chapters later. The Pharisees come to Jesus, and they say, Jesus, you have to get out of here. You have to leave and go somewhere else because Herod wants to kill you. And now we weren't there, and it's not in the scripture, but I think what we missed is the biggest mic drop in human history. Because can you imagine, as the Pharisees are saying this to Jesus, can you imagine Jesus just smiling? Oh, really, Herod wants me gone. I wonder if Herod knows that his manager's wife is funding the whole thing. I wonder if Herod knows that the thing he's trying to stamp out, his money's actually giving us the power to keep going. The story wasn't supposed to stop with the 12. In fact, it was always intended for the story to move to the rejected, to the marginalized, to those looking for a little healing in their life. It was supposed to move to the elite, to those who maybe have it all. Nice car, nice home, food on the table. But then we say, yeah, but isn't there more? There's got to be more to it. There's got to be a bigger purpose. There's got to be more to it than just this. The story was always supposed to move. It's not about religious rocket ships and holy elevators, but the life of Jesus demonstrates for us what it's like to encounter the God who is always with us. Amen.